Okay, shall we start? There are still 5 free places in the first row, so if you wish not to stay here but sit there, so please take your time. Okay, just to check, as I said earlier, organizers asked me to give a talk in English, so just to check, are there people who understand exclusively English? Because otherwise I would switch to Russian. Are there people who talk exclusively in English? No? Я тогда буду по-русски, собственно, рассказывать, если вы не против. Супер, да? Хорошо, я надеюсь, вы все перекусили и теперь в хорошем настроении, таком послеобеденном, готовы послушать еще немножко интересных историй про Scaled Agile. И историю, которую хотел бы с вами поделиться, это история о том, как в нашей компании, в компании Materialise, мы внедряли такой инструмент, как, господи, он имеет очень сложное название, Process Maturity Model или Process Maturity Model Assessment. Что-то в этом роде. В течение, собственно говоря, самой презентации я расскажу, что это такое, зачем и как к этому зверю лучше всего подойти. Почему, в принципе, родилась такая тема, родилась такая проблема? Она родилась из того, что есть такая тема, как то, что называется в английском языке diversity, разнообразие. И это вот diversity, она, с одной стороны, это очень хорошо, когда у вас есть разные люди с разными квалификациями, которые могут решить разные сложные, интересные задачи. Они могут поделиться какими-то разными идеями. То есть вроде бы все классно, когда у вас все разные люди, и вот они, по сути, могут дать какой-то разный contribution к тому, чтобы получить итоговый уникальный продукт, итоговое уникальное решение. Но если вы работаете в большой компании, если ваши команда, например, находится в разных офисах, то diversity иногда приводит к тому, что у вас одна команда в одном офисе перформит раз так в 5 быстрее, чем команда в другом офисе. Я не знаю, вы сталкивались, кто-то сталкивался с такой ситуацией? Или это просто вот, не знаю, уникальный такой у нас опыт был? И вот, собственно говоря, идея в том, чтобы вот тот фреймворк, о котором хотел бы рассказать, должен, по сути, помочь эту проблему немного решить. Не буду останавливаться очень много о себе, то есть достаточно много работал в больших компаниях, работал с большими клиентами, и везде при работе с большими компаниями сталкивался с таким, общим каким-то стандартным паттерном. Это не какой-то... Это я так микрофон скрипит, да? Окей, постараюсь аккуратнее. Паттерн достаточно простой. Алло, меня хорошо слышно? Окей. Когда компания из маленькой аутсорса, из маленькой продуктовой компании вырастает в большую, чаще всего у компании появляется больше каких-то бизнес-возможностей. Выйти на новые рынки, сделать какие-то новые, более интересные продукты. В компании начинает работать большее количество людей. Так, немножко больше. В компании появляется больше слоев менеджмента. В компании появляется распределенная структура, когда команды разработки находятся уже не в одном офисе, а находятся в разных совершенно офисах, в разных часовых поясах. Компания зачастую либо она сама приходит к тому, что внедряет какие-то формализованные процессы, все тот же пресловутый ISO, CMMI модели и прочее. И, к сожалению, ситуации, когда люди могут пообщаться друг с другом, просто обсудить, вот у меня такая проблема, а ты как ее решал, как ты пробовал, это становится сделать гораздо проще. Sorry, there is at least one.
Thank you.
I would switch to English because at least one non-exclusive Russian speaker came here. So actually, what's the problem? What's the problem with the big companies? So you could say, okay, distributed structure, that's fine. The problem is that when teams in such companies from different offices face the same problems, they are starting to design solutions like that. So they are starting to reinvent the wheel, and they are starting to tackle the problems that were already solved in the different offices. you may ask what can be done, and well, I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, and there are a lot of guys who try to and really tackled this problem, and a lot of good solutions for burn. The first one is that organizing and supporting some peer talks and organization of distributed code review to check how different teams approach different problems. Organizing corporate wikis. Organizing some knowledge sharing sessions. Initiating some expert visits. Yeah, that's funny picture, but in reality there are situations when in a big company an expert like principal architect, solution architect is paying a visit to another company office to show how to deal with some tricky technological problems. The same may appeal for management problems, the same may appeal for QA problems. There are also some internal consoles like architecture councils are organized in order guys get together and work on some problems and work on some like design solutions for a bit more complicated products. And of course, agile pizza, schmizza clubs, when guys are just came together to discuss some topics, eat some pizza, and to network, and also to discuss some problems that they're facing and how to solve it. And it works. It really works in most of the cases. But even all this is organized. If we would try to look and to check some particular practice, like I don't know, implementation of some CI engine like Jenkins or Bamboo or TeamCity. How it worked in a small company. So one team started and implemented Jenkins, another team knew about that, asked them, hey guys, how you did it? Oh, that's cool, let's try, we could also try it. But when a third team came, ta-da, we're using Bamboo. Okay. So the situation is, well, quite okay. But what if we look in a bit bigger company? So dynamics is similar, but on a larger scale, we face a situation when different practices in a similar domain are spread very differently. And we have different teams with very, very different experiences. And that's not a problem at all. So that's also okay situation. Why it's a problem and when it becomes a problem? It becomes a problem when we need to, I don't know, move some guy from Minsk team to London. And his first, I don't know, few weeks, he's starting to get used to new processes, to new tools. When we need to merge some teams. When we need to, I don't know, when some product is canceled and we need to move one team and switch it to another technology stack. When we need to, let's say, create a solution that will bring several products together as a solution, let's say, as a solution to a market. In that cases, differences between teams lead to the fact that company pay price. The price is wasted time for adjustment to different processes and adjustment to different practices, and sometimes adjustment to a different, let's say, competency levels. And all the approaches that are based on best practice sharing has its limitation. So limitation actually, I don't know, how many times have you faced a situation when you have a very smart guy, let's say senior software developer or senior architect who's really cool at development, but he's not willing to share its knowledge. And not because he's a bad guy. No, he's really a good guy. He wants to talk, but he just don't want to be exposed. He just don't want to publicly talk to people or something like that. So that's just uncomfortable for him. Have you faced such a situation? Did you know such people? I see your smiles. You don't need to raise your hand, so I can see it. And actually, there are some smart guys who tried to tackle this knowledge sharing problem that are especially a problem for big teams from some other end. The idea was quite simple. The idea was to create some kind of structured approach, structured metrics, and here's one of the examples of such metrics, to check, that would allow to see team technological and team organizational practices level for and how this team level compared to the market and how this team level is comparable to let's say some bottom line that is defined for the company. So these metrics could be, and it is easily transformed into an assessment that allows to just by answering question allows to quickly understand that teams are on beginner level in build processes, maybe intermediate level in test processes, has quite good level in branching, but they're very bad at visibility or something like that. And this framework allows actually to create development plans for these teams. So what practices they need to tackle, what practices they need to implement into next period of time. But this approach also has its disadvantages and its downfalls. What do we usually do with benchmarking? So what do we do with benchmarks? We usually measure. We measure team, we measure people, and as a result, especially top managers are very guilty in that, they're creating some winners and losers situation. They're creating some rankings. So these teams implemented like 20 practices and they're really cool. This team implemented only 5 practices and they sucks. Yeah, so that's not very motivating for trying to be honest and checking this thing. So very important thing, and I'm going to talk about that a bit later, is to make this assessment in a way that allows team to be responsible and to be owner of this self-assessment information from one hand, but not to keep this information as a secret. I'll show you how we try to deal with this, let's say, with this problem. So we think a little bit, what can we do? And typical approach was frozen. So we've took these few different benchmarks, adjusted them to our technology stack because some of the things that were applicable for them were not applicable for us due to the fact that we're like just using another technologies. Well, most of the practices are, but not all of them. Then I've checked this benchmark with one team, received their feedback because first benchmark was really raw, so it needed some polishing. After that, when changes were implemented to this benchmark, I've checked it with 3 teams, and so on to implemented changes based on feedback, and do it on some teams abroad in different offices, and then we've scaled this approach to the whole company. So typical step-by-step, like small pilot, bigger pilot, and full company implementation. As a result, we receive our personal model with a fancy visualization that allows team to see their strengths and their weaknesses at one screen. And what we also received as a result is a very cool thing that each team received and discussed some practices that they should be focused into next year, next few months. So they received some additional things to their development plans. Some things that were already on the table, so they were already thinking about it, and they just received a bit more like structured view on their development plans. But some things were new to them, and they said, "Oh, okay, we really never think about that, so we should really try." And the coolest thing is that there are some practices that were added to this development plan already implemented in the teams. So this tool became part of continuous improvement process in the company. So, so from one side, we still have all of the best practice sharing, knowledge sharing sessions, QA, FA clubs, etc. And this, as I said, these things are really working well. But from other side, we have this self-assessment tool that allows team to assess themselves, check whether they are like fit or not fit to market, to company level, and to find out points where they need to improve. What we did to make this thing honest, as I said earlier, we made team owners of the data that they assessed, and we leave these checklists for themselves for their private use only. So only them and their like direct manager know about this, because direct manager want to know what teams are going to do in the next like months, next quarter. But what we also did, we've shared not the results of this assessment, but we've shared the plans and the goals that these teams have for the next year. So if one team wants to, let's say, implement zero downtime deploys, and some other team also want to pursue the same goal at the same time period, it would be really beneficial for them to discuss it, to share some insights, and to tackle some problems together. So that's another thing what we do. This tool implementation gave us, and what we also do, we've initiated a review of this particular tool, not only based on the feedback, but based also on some industry practices, because, let's say, a few years ago, no one was talking about containerization, containers, or no one was talking about, I don't know, deployment orchestration, and now it's a really hot topics. So the idea is that these tools should be continuously reviewed and and aligned with the modern trends and really proven practices that are important and that are used on the market. One other thing that we also wanted to tackle, but not with this particular tool, but using this approach, was trying to tackle this thing from organizational perspective, so to assess Scrum processes. But yeah, for the moment we're just thinking about it, and that's completely another story. I will, at the end of the presentation, there will be a slide with all of the links that I used. So you could either photo it, or you could have this presentation probably via site. So we have a road ahead of us, and this story will be continued, as both for technical excellency and for Scrum assessment. And probably I'll be here in a year and tell you, and I would be happy to tell what we've did during the year and what we achieved and what some problems that we tackled. There are all of the links that were used when creating actually the presentation. If you wish, on the last slide you can either contact me or directly our organizers to receive the presentation, to receive all of the links to try and to implement it in your company. So what I encourage you is at least review this approach, to check with your colleagues whether you see and you feel it may be applicable in your company, and then probably try to adjust and try it in your company and to check whether maybe it will bring some benefits to you. That's all from my side. Thank you, colleagues, and